That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is a Reaction Monday here on Sports Daily. Glad to be with you. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor here. Chad Chambers producing for us. Man in that IHOP hotline at 869-1240. Just brought to you by IHOP. Guests can enjoy a home-style turkey stuffing dinner, roasted turkey gravy over cornbread stuffing, served with a choice of 2 dinner entree sides. It is open for you the whole way. Our regularly scheduled Monday guest, Trey Eslata, is going to join us tomorrow. So it is your IHOP hotline today. On it, you'll have a chance to win some prizes. We'll give away some movie tickets. The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We'll give you a sneak peek chance this Thursday, Boulevard Theaters in Town West Square. We'll give away some HTO, tea, and coffee. Lots to get to today, lots to give away, and some fun with you. Thanks for listening here on KFH. Thanks for watching us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. You can leave us your comments there. You can tweet at us or X at us at the show, at our own handles, whatever you want to do to get in touch with the program today. Let's react. It is a Reaction Monday. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good. Good weekend. Got a chance to watch quite a bit of football this weekend, which was nice. Mainly because, and I know that you can relate to this, Jacob, my toddler gave me a cold for like the 4th time in 3 months. You've got kids, they just are like they're just covered in germs all the time. And so a little under the weather this weekend, just had a good chance to like lay on the couch and watch football.
We had a bout with one of our own that started at the end of the day Friday. We've got it's what it is. My wife and I were just talking about that, like your Petri dishes. And anytime we have visitors or guests, I feel like our kids get them sick because they haven't built up that immunity to just how kids are kind of always sick, especially during the winter time. Like they're never all 3 of mine, like not sick ever until we get to the spring. So and I know most people relate, and hopefully it builds all of our immunities, and we'll just keep telling ourselves that, and it'll be fine.
My wife said this weekend, she's like, "How can you have a cold again?" And I said, "Honey, like our toddler just like sneezes in my face, coughs in my mouth, like just comes up and wants to give me a hug and just like, coughs all over me. What am I supposed to do?"
Yeah, nothing. Get sick and just move on with life. That's the way it is. Let's talk about, I don't even know where to go today. So the Chiefs were off. I know where to go. I don't know where to start. You had college basketball yesterday, but I think we start with Saturday and college football as we begin to set up the Sunflower Showdown this weekend. A predictable outcome for K-State, one that we certainly wanted to see for the Wildcats as they just smash Baylor. They do it, on the ground with the running backs this time, which was good to see. And they do it, through the air as much as they needed to with Will Howard. And it was another Will Howard game. I think, we've all known for a little while that's the way it's going to go here down the stretch. 59-25. I mean, it's probably exactly what we wanted to see, Tommy. Like it's certainly what we needed to see after the tough loss to Texas, that they would put that behind them and bounce back. They did. And now you just roll on forward. What's crazy is Oklahoma State lost and didn't look very good. And you sit here as we are about to talk about Kansas in a minute, and you're like, well, wait a minute here. Like there may have been a chance. Unfortunately, Kansas didn't get it done. Another injury at quarterback. And, they almost did. They almost had it. That was a tough way to lose it, to go down and get it tied. And then, you're behind freshman Cole Ballard because Jason Bean leaves the game early, and then Texas Tech drives right back down, gets their field goal. That's the end of it. But man, when Oklahoma State lost, I was just, oh no, like it just like loomed larger.
Yeah, and Oklahoma State didn't just lose. I mean, they got crushed. And
They're my favorite bet of the week, too.
I was surprised when I saw I was keeping up with the score updates in that game, and I was shocked. I had an idea, like I had a thought that it was going to be a tougher game for Oklahoma State, considering that I feel like UCF has underperformed this season, and I thought that Oklahoma State was due, to kind of come down a couple notches. But I certainly didn't think that it was going to be that big of a deficit for Oklahoma State. I mean, early on in the game, they were down like 21-0 or something like that. I mean, they just absolutely got dominated. And so absolutely a missed opportunity really for both KU and K-State, both of those teams losing to Oklahoma State earlier this season. Either one of those teams win that game against the Cowboys, it could be a completely different scenario right now.
Well, look, hope is alive for K-State, right? Because they sit at 5-2. They need Oklahoma State to lose again. And this is just me. I haven't read this, so this is me like just trying to decipher how this could play out. So Oklahoma, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State are 5-2. Kansas State, of course, won Farmageddon. And so it's like, well, what? So I think they would tie break over Iowa State, correct? They need Oklahoma State to lose. And then I don't know what happens with Oklahoma, who has BYU and TCU to finish, who bounced back very nicely against West Virginia. Oklahoma did. So I don't know what the scenario with Oklahoma is on tie breaks. I'm not sure. But I mean, it's kind of there for them too now. Like you need Oklahoma and Oklahoma State to lose again and to win out. And K-State's got a shot here. Oklahoma State losing is a big deal because we didn't think that looking at the end of their schedule that there was any chance they'd lose, twice, especially once. Now it's kind of there. And the way they played, you're like, okay, well, if they're not at home, they got a chance to lose.
Right.
So I don't know here. Like, I don't know. It all depends on that tiebreaker between K-State. Maybe you've seen this. I have not.
Yeah. So
we'll ask later in the week.
Yeah, I looked it up, and this is according to 247sports.com. The Big 12 official tiebreaker procedures. If two teams are tied, then at that point, if two teams are tied for second place, the two-team tiebreaker policy will apply, and the winner will be the number 2 seed and visiting team. Okay, so here's what it is. Win percentage against the next highest placed common opponent in the standings based on record in all games played within the conference proceeding through the standings. So I guess that would mean
strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule. I guess so the next highest placed common opponent in the standings. So did both of those teams play Iowa State? I would imagine that would be that'd be the next tiebreaker would be.
Well, does it? Okay, but so Texas is excluded there because they both played Texas, and obviously Oklahoma played them better,
right? I think it would be OU. I think
Oklahoma
OU would have the tiebreaker at that point.
Oklahoma beat Iowa by 30.
Yeah,
and Iowa State by 30. Kansas State finishes with Iowa State, so they haven't played Farmageddon. Why was I thinking they already won that? So they've got 2 rivalry games coming down the stretch here. So they would essentially, if both teams win, it would become a situation where K-State's got to try to beat Iowa State by more than 30. Is that right?
I think it's just the win percentage. I'm not sure I don't know if it's about the
margin of victory.
I'm not sure that's what it is.
Yeah, because then it's going to come into strength of schedule, right? So I don't know. Yeah. We'll dig into this. We'll have Tim Fitzgerald on later in the week. We'll have Wyatt Thompson in later. I mean, the reality is you just have to win. And this is the problem with, an uneven schedule, but it is what it is. I mean, they're going to have to deal with this down the road too. But yeah, you've got to just keep winning. And the door is back open with Oklahoma State. All that with K-State, that's even tougher for Kansas, Tommy, because, like if they don't have that situation and, probably I think we can watch that game play out and in fairness think KU wins that game with Jason Bean. I don't think that's out of the realm of, discussion here. And had that happened, I mean, they're looking real good. They're looking real good. They're at that point, they would take all the tiebreakers and be in good shape, but that's not what we're faced with. And so I guess I'm thinking like, which loss feels worse, the K-State loss to Texas or that KU loss to Tech? I still think it's the K-State loss to Texas, but they were both that kind of like just gut-wrenching loss.
Yeah, there's a few different times in the KU Texas Tech game on Saturday that you can look back on just missed opportunities that had things gone a little bit differently for the Jayhawks, they could have won the game with Cole Ballard, the third string freshman quarterback, under center for Kansas. I thought he played pretty well coming in and, not really having any kind of experience at that level. I thought he showed really good poise. I felt like he showed pretty good athleticism. That's a tough position to be in. And you and I were texting during the game, and I kind of felt like the Jayhawks have nothing to lose other than just let him go up there and just let it fly. And
they did. He threw it 20 times. That's pretty. I mean, that's more than Jason Bean throws it when he's in there.
Yeah.
So it was fine. Look, I got Kansas. That's a brutal situation to be in, and they still almost won the game. It's funny to me, if you believe in planetary alignment and you believe in destiny and Lance Leipold staying forever, I kept thinking to myself, and maybe I text you this, or I think I said it. I was on CBS Sports Radio, so I probably said this to the national audience because they're not as in tune with what's happening. Like, guys, if Lance Leipold finds a way to take Kansas through this game and win, he will be the top candidate for every job. Now, that didn't happen. And so how much are people paying attention? I don't know, because they'll now not be playing for a Big 12 championship or anything like that. Texas A&M just came open. And Texas A&M bought out for like $90 million or more, depending on how much the assistants get bought out for. They are going to probably, if I had to guess, if it gets into a situation where they're trying to talk somebody into it, you may have a situation where we're looking at one of, if not the highest paid coach in college football, because they are desperate. They have all the money in the world, just like Texas does, and they want to get this thing done. So, and they fired Jimbo Fisher here at a time where they're going to be aggressive, right? They have to try and make sure they keep recruits and all that kind of stuff. So, like planetary alignment and everything, let's say Leipold gets that win and KU goes and figures out a way to play for a Big 12 championship and all those things. Like, he's going to be, and he may already be in on the A&M job. A&M and Michigan State are very, very different, Tommy. Like, A&M has had the top recruiting class, or one of the, every year for 5 or 6 years. I don't know why they can't win. I don't know what the problem has been. But Lance Leipold's the exact kind of coach that they need, right? A guy that can then win those games, with those players. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Like, that I think Lance Leipold's taking the A&M job. I have no idea, no clue. But I think they'll be interested in him. And, that those dots have already been connected. I'm not breaking news here. But had they won that game somehow and figured out a way to get into like a Big 12 championship game and all those things may work out differently. I think sometimes you just got to trust fate a little bit and say, you know what? Whatever happens, it's been a great year for Kansas, and who knows what happens down the road. But maybe in 5 years, you look back and you say, God, what if they'd have won that game? Like, what if they would have won that game and figured out a way to A&M just made him an offer he couldn't refuse?
I've seen both Leipold and Chris Kleiman's name connected to Texas A&M. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. We talk about it all the time, about how you've got two coaches that have turned programs around and are doing really well and, being connected to jobs. My only hesitation with thinking either one of those guys will be the next Texas A&M head coach has nothing to do with either of their interest in the job. It has to do with the perception of the Texas A&M job. Jimbo Fisher won a national championship at Florida State. I would imagine Texas A&M, they're going to want to have a huge, major, massive splash. Somebody that is a big name nationally.
He was their splash.
But I think that they have the money and the perception of their program to go out there and do that again. I think somebody on the national stage, I've seen a couple of names that I think either one of them would be a slam dunk for Texas A&M, and Kalen DeBoer from Washington and Dan Lanning from Oregon. Both of those guys, look like they're going to be headed into the Big Ten next year with their respective programs. Both programs are top tier in the country nationally. And you've got all these resources in the SEC with an opportunity to take Texas A&M to the next level. I think both of those names are bigger splashes than Leipold or Kleiman. I mean, I think that Leipold or Kleiman would do a great job in that role, but I'm not sure that Texas A&M is going to want to go and with the perception that they're bringing in a coach from the Big 12. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure that that's going to happen.
They're going. Tommy, I'll make you a prediction right this second. They're hiring Mike Elko.
Yeah,
Elko spent 4 years at A&M as defensive coordinator.
It's the natural fit, right? It's the natural fit.
Yeah, and it makes sense too. Like he's going to be. The only thing about that is that he was a Jimbo Fisher guy. Like that'd be the only thing that would make me wonder about that, right? Is because he was a Jimbo Fisher guy. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know if they would hold that against him, but he makes the most sense far and away at this very moment,
right?
Because he's already got the connection there. But I'll tell you right now, and this has nothing to do with, I hope Lance Leipold and Chris Kleiman coach at their respective places for the next decade. I think either one of those guys is exactly what A&M needs, right? Which is just an absolute football coach who knows how to win games. And because here's the thing at A&M, like sometimes I think they overthink the recruiting aspect. A&M is, especially in an NIL world, never going to have an issue recruiting ever again. They will be fine. They have all the money in the world. It's the same money that's at Texas. It's oil money. It's energy money. It is endless. And so, like, whoever they hire doesn't have to be as locked in there. And of course, that's important. I just think with NIL, it's going to take care of itself.
Right.
And so,
but that was the Jimbo Fisher. That was the Jimbo Fisher issue, right? It wasn't that there was a lack of recruiting. It was the fact that they underachieved. He wasn't able to coach them to victories, right? When they had all the resources and all the recruiting power and all of that, he just couldn't win football games.
That's why I think they need to go the route that K-State and KU went. They were smart. Both universities were smart. They went and focused more on guys that just know how to win football games. And where did they find them? Lower levels, essentially. And I know Leipold had put in his time, but you're talking about his time at Buffalo, but his teeth were chopped. That's not the right word. His teeth were cut.
There you go.
In Division III, right? And Leipold in FCS. So Kleiman in FCS. So like those are just winning coaches.
Yeah.
And it's translated, right? In the facilities and NIL and now all that stuff. It doesn't take care of itself, but it does more than it used to.
Yeah.
And so if you're A&M, like you're going to put together these kinds of classes no matter what you do. You've got to go find the program builder that just flat wins, that has none of the drama off the field, is never going to like cause a controversy. Just like really good dudes that are lifers that know how to win football games. And I don't know enough about Elko to know if he is that. I'm not sure. But Kleiman and Leipold are. And like they're the first names on my list, or first of names on my list if I'm A&M. It's not even more than, maybe Washington would make some sense. But Dan Lanning at Oregon, like that's splashy. I don't think A&M needs splashy.
He's an SEC
I think
guy. Dan Lanning spent quite a bit of time in the SEC. He's got that
but they're going to the
personality.
Big Ten too.
Yeah.
They're going to the Big Ten too, and they may not need those kinds of jobs. That's not that much of a step up anymore.
And look, I think that you and I and anybody who follows the Big 12, it's really easy for us to say, oh, A&M should seriously look at Lance Leipold or Chris Kleiman. But think about the perception of the Big 12 football product in comparison to the SEC football product. A&M left the Big 12 to go to the SEC. I'm not sure the perception is quite there positively enough with the donors and the boosters. It doesn't matter what Leipold and Kleiman have done at their respective programs. I'm just saying, I think the perception with the big money, the oil money, all of that is, well, we left the Big 12. We feel like SEC football is better. We don't need to be grabbing a head coach from a Big 12 program. That's why I think Elko makes sense. I think Lane Kiffin makes sense. I think that Dan Lanning makes sense. I think that those names are more likely. I think that Leipold or Kleiman is a smart choice to at least look at, but I'm not sure that that's the direction A&M is going to go.
A&M is about to buy out Jimbo Fisher for $100 million.
You're right.
I think if there's ever been a time that they're like, you know what? I don't care what people think. We just have to make, because they're going to love them as soon as they win 10 games.
Yeah.
So like, you just got to go get the person that you think will.
Perception is reality, though. Perception
I'd be
is
scared
reality.
to death.
I think you
I'd
and
be
I
scared
can
to
sit
death
here,
if I was K-State.
You and I can sit
I'd
here
be
in
scared
Big,
to death.
You and I can sit here in Big 12 country and talk all day long about how great Leipold and Kleiman are. In College Station, in Tuscaloosa, in other places in big in
But that's
SEC
not what I'm
country,
saying.
I'm just not sure that's going to go over well.
I'm saying if you're the athletic administrator, not if you're the fanboy, right? Not if you're in the 12th man or whatever. Like, you got to make a hire that wins games, because the splash hire is not what's important. It's A&M. They don't need a splash hire. They need 10 wins, right? They need to compete for SEC championships. And if you're trying to make a natural fit to the culture of that school and all the tradition and everything, I'd be scared if I was both Kansas and Kansas State, because there are two guys that make a lot of sense. Now, all that being said, I'm not trying to say that they would leave for the job at all. Just saying that they probably and certainly will be candidates for the job. And that's always frightening when you've got a school that's going to pay and recruit like A&M does. A&M is not the same as Michigan State. A&M is not the same as Nebraska. Like, this is a premier job. And I know, you can laugh at that all you want. With they put 100,000 people plus at every game. They have all the money in the world, and they recruit like crazy. That's a premier job. One of the top, probably, I don't know, Tommy, 5 to 10, right? It's a top job in the country. Wins have not been there for them, but they're about to go pay for those wins as much as they can. We'll just cross our fingers and hope that Leipold and Kleiman stay right where they are for us around here, because they're perfect fits where they are now, and they both said they want to stay. So we'll see.
Yeah. By the way, I would love to hire Jimbo Fisher's agent. I mean, the amount of money that he's getting to not coach for the next 8 years.
He just reset the bar on buyouts.
Oh my God.
Like, that is, and I always ask the question, why would college guys want to go coach in the NFL? Why would they want to? This is why they'd want to stay in college. These buyouts are getting out of control.
And also, with this kind of buyout, I never want to hear again that players shouldn't get paid. They shouldn't have opportunities for NIL. With the amount of money that Jimbo Fisher is making to not coach, come on now.
It's put that in the column of the blatantly obvious. We could never afford to pay those players. How many years could you get players paid for $100 million for a coach not to coach? A decade, probably. $10 million a year. Would that cover the payroll of the players there at A&M? I think it'd probably take care of it. Goodness gracious. 869-1240 is the number to call. What do you think, KU, K-State fans? Are you worried at all when you see that kind of job come open? And by the way, Mississippi State just did too. Teams more eager to pull the trigger than ever before with the early signing period. But we'll get into that. We can continue that discussion. We can talk a little college hoops. We want to look back at the day in the NFL as well. No Chiefs, but plenty of games that mean something to them. We'll discuss it all on Sports Daily as we roll forward here on a Monday. Primetime NFL games from Westwood One available live for free tonight on the Odyssey app. Tune in over on KNSS for Monday Night Football. Bills hosting the Broncos. Simply download the Odyssey app and search for KNSS at kickoff. It's on KNSS because you got K-State hoops tonight against South Dakota State on KFH right here. Coverage begins at 6. Really excited about that game. I think that may be the best early season game that we need to take the most from of what we'll see. K-State tonight in action. Wichita State won last night against Friends. They shot the 3 a little better. You know, there's not a ton of things to take away from that. It was against Friends, but you know, it was nice to see them shoot it a little better. We can get more into those things as we make our way through. Don't forget on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. It's open for you. We'll have it open. We'll have some contests, some giveaways as we make our way through the program today. Tommy, let's look at the NFL Sunday here. It was an interesting week. I mean, of course, that the headline to me is that the Texans were able to beat the Bengals. And I'm going to tell you, as I traded C.J. Stroud to you in a keeper league, C.J. Stroud needs to be an MVP candidate.
I told you
right?
that a week ago. You were like, oh, no, rookie of the year, I can see that, but I don't know about MVP.
Well, because there's not much precedent for it historically. It's been since Jim Brown. But the reality is, like, who is it going to be? There is no definitive answer yet, right? Not yet. There's not. Like, I've seen Jalen Hurts. I looked at the odds yesterday, and I put a little scratch on this, Tommy. You know what? I after that game yesterday, I was able to get C.J. Stroud at 40-1.
Yeah,
40-1. I mean, we're talking like, hang on a minute here. How is he 40-1? Right? I don't know where that ranks, and I'll pull this up right now. Let's go to Vegas Insider and see where he ranks right now, because they sort of take a collective of it. And he's down. Here are the names he's below right now. And this is this year. Why is Aaron Rodgers still even on this list? I don't know if this is up to date here, but I mean, you're going to see Dak Prescott ahead of him. You're going to see Burrow. You're going to see Lamar Jackson, Tua, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. At minimum, you will see those names ahead of him. You may see Lamar Jackson in there. Tommy, he's better than most of those guys. Like without question, definitively, the amount of comebacks, all of these things. I mean, come on now. Like, there are not that many better MVP candidates. Here's what, FanDuel has right now. They have Patrick Mahomes, Hurts, Tua, Lamar, and Josh Allen ahead of Stroud. They've now adjusted Stroud to 20-1 there. I think it was DraftKings where I got him at 40-1 after that game. But like, he's having a better season than Patrick Mahomes. Like, not even close. I think he's having a better season. I think he's having a better season than all of those guys, quite frankly.
Yeah, there's not another quarterback playing right now as well as C.J. Stroud is playing. And it's remarkable to me that they completely basically rebuilt their team, right? In the draft with Stroud, with Will Anderson, brand new head coach in D'Amico Ryans. Then they get these skill position players that we saw a little bit from a year ago in Dameon Pierce and Nico Collins, but Tank Dell is coming out of nowhere. Noah Brown. I know you know about Noah Brown, but man, that guy came out of nowhere, I feel like, this season, and has just stepped up in a huge way. And they've got Devin Singletary, who looks better than he's ever looked in his NFL career. So, I mean,
they can't run the ball. Like, that's the first game they've run the. I know that's the first time they've run the ball all year. Like, they have had hell trying to run the ball, and it's a run offense. That's a part of why I think he, like, when you really mix it all in, and people might say Mahomes because of what he's working with. Look at what CJ Stroud's working with.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's been remarkable, and they're winning games. They just went to Cincinnati and beat the Bengals.
Right.
And it looked like they were like, it looked like 10 different times they were going to, it's like, oh, here comes Cincinnati. I know that because I bet Cincinnati. And it's like, they never could get it done. And when push came to shove, they came down and they made the big play when they had, like, what we're seeing from him. You could replace everything and put Mahomes on the back of his jersey, Tommy, and he would be a runaway favorite for MVP.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and here's what we're looking at with the Texans. And by the way, if the season ended right now, the Texans would be in the playoffs. They're a playoff team as of right now. But what we saw from them and what was so impressive as I watched that game yesterday was the fact that they got out to a lead. They let Cincinnati back into it. Some questionable clock management, I think, from the Texans late in the game. Cincinnati is able to tie it. And then the resolve of CJ Stroud to lead a game-winning drive with the kicker coming off the street. And the Chiefs know, like Chiefs fans know about Matt Amendola. Not a great kicker, but he comes in because Fairbairn is injured and hits the walk-off field goal to win the game for the Texans in Cincinnati against the Bengals. Super impressive. Not just the individual stats that Stroud was able to put up, but the fact that they were able to lead a game-winning drive and get the win on the road in Cincinnati. I mean, it's a team that I wouldn't want to go up against in the playoffs right now.
So he's second in the league in yards right now, and he's played one fewer game than Sam Howell, the leader. So there's that for you. He would be the leader if they all played the same amount of games. His touchdown to interception ratio is the best. I mean, he's thrown that interception he threw late in the game, Tommy. It's the second interception he's thrown all year.
Yep.
He's played every game. Okay. He's got 15 touchdowns, which is, right. It's probably in the second tier there. And his passer rating is, and again, passer rating can be a little bit deceptive, but it's inside the top 5 or 6, I think, with Kirk Cousins hurt now. Like all the things. And then, so that already makes you an MVP candidate, right? You have to have the stats. But the MVP race always in the NFL gets, it gets around storylines. And when you consider storylines and you consider that it's the Texans and you consider that people thought they might be in the mix for the first pick overall again this year and that they've had a myriad of injuries, on that offense. I talked to Will Kunkel, who's in Houston now working and used to be here. You might recognize that name, about Stroud before Sunday. I talked to him Saturday, and like it's unbelievable what they're dealing with. And he brought up the point then, like this is designed to be a run-based offense, and they can't run the ball. I think they're on their 3rd or 4th center this year. Like the injuries across the offensive line they've dealt with. Like the names at wide receiver that look great now that nobody knew about before, right? With Nico Collins and Tank Dell, and Robert Woods has given them very little to nothing. Noah Brown's been this revelation. Like there's a reason Noah Brown's a revelation, right? And it's because their quarterback's playing out of his mind right now. He can run a little bit. Like when you think about all the storylines, he's got all of it. And if he continues this, I'm telling you, if he continues this and they don't just like fall off a cliff and he doesn't, when we're stacking up resumes, I don't, I know Mahomes is the odds-on favorite, and I think baked into that is the fact that they think the Chiefs will finish strong and that offense will get better. But if you had to give an MVP trophy today, you're not giving it to Mahomes.
No.
I mean, maybe you could make a case for Tua, but they haven't beat anybody good. Stroud has done it all. They just went to Cincinnati and beat them. I mean, it's unreal.
Yeah,
I didn't think there was any way they could win that game.
Yeah. Have you looked at the AFC playoff picture today? I mean, it's absolutely insane. I mean, Kansas City at 7-2. They've got the number 1 overall seed. They won by not playing yesterday. And then you've got the Bengals losing, the Ravens losing, the Jags losing, the Chargers losing. Like just a remarkable day for Kansas City, and they didn't play a game. Baltimore, the number 2 seed. Jacksonville, the number 3 seed. Miami, the number 4 seed. Pittsburgh at 6-3. Pittsburgh at 6-3 is the number 5 seed. Cleveland is the number 6 seed. Houston is number 7. Then you've got Cincinnati, Buffalo right there at 5-4. Indianapolis, Vegas, and the Chargers and the Jets. Like they're all right there within a couple of games. Like we're not going to have a clear view of the entire AFC playoff picture. I mean, it's going to come down probably to the final game of the season because you've got such a logjam right there in the middle. But with the Bills and the Bengals, like they're basically on the outside looking in right now.
That's not going to, I mean, the Bengals are going to be fine. They made some mistakes, but you got to remember too, like the Bengals defense had been leading them through this surge, and Houston and CJ Stroud just did it again. It gets crazy. It is crazy to think about this NFL season when you consider that Stroud, nobody was talking about Stroud, right? It was Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson. And then there was some buzz about Will Levis. Why? Because Stroud didn't do well on some test and I don't think either of us were down on Stroud. I had no opinion really on Stroud. Like, I didn't know what to think about Stroud. But and I've listened to people that watch a lot of tape talk about him. And it's like the throws that he's making, apparently, and we don't see this in a game, are throws that some of the best quarterbacks in football make, in the sense that guys are not open when he's throwing the ball. He is throwing them open. And that's just not something, apparently, that you ever see from rookies. I was having a conversation with my nephew, who's a big sports junkie, and we were talking about some of the same stuff you and I were with Justin Herbert. And he's like, oh, Herbert's overrated and all that. I'm like, actually, he's not. Like, let's look at this a little bit. Some of the same stuff I've said over and over and over again. Then we started talking about Stroud. And I said, look, Stroud may be the best rookie quarterback we've ever seen. He's like, oh, no. He's not better than Dak. And I'm like, yes, he is. Like, here, look, the proof is in the pudding. He's having a better year than Dak had his rookie year. Herbert sort of reset the standard, and he's putting up those kinds of numbers. But when you think about the roster he's doing it on and the wins that they're compiling, it's all there. I don't think right now on November 13th, Tommy, that there's a better MVP candidate than CJ Stroud.
I'm glad that you finally are coming around on
maybe
this.
Maybe Tyreek Hill.
I mean, you're a week after me in saying that, because I feel like what he's done, and it hasn't just been the last couple of weeks. I mean, basically, take a look at what he's done throughout the entire season. It took him a little bit to get his footing, but there's not a better quarterback playing right now. And, I think I tweeted it yesterday. There's not a better quarterback not named Patrick Mahomes in the NFL right now than CJ Stroud. And even the way that they've played recently, Stroud is playing better than Mahomes. So, I mean, I definitely think that, I mean,
you're saying playing better. You're not saying better than. You're saying playing better.
Right. I'm saying playing better right now than Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
There's not another one outside of CJ Stroud.
CJ Stroud's playing better than Patrick Mahomes? If we're just saying playing better, it's not close. Patrick Mahomes isn't playing well at all.
I'm saying CJ Stroud is playing better than Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is a better quarterback than Stroud is, but Stroud is 100%. Playing better than Patrick Mahomes.
Burrow's a better quarterback, and I get what you're saying.
I've been on the Stroud for MVP.
Here's why though. Like you're giving me grief for not being on this. They have not had a win like they had yesterday on the road at Cincinnati. Now they beat Jacksonville earlier in the year, but otherwise he hasn't had the opportunity to have like the spotlight all to himself. I'm talking about MVP candidate.
And what he did against the Buccaneers a week ago was incredible also. Like, we've had a couple of weeks of him having
but they also lost to the Panthers. They also lost to the Panthers, and he was a non-factor. So he's had plenty holding him back from it. But that's the kind of win when you're in the big window of the NFL and everybody's paying attention. That's the kind of thing where it's like, hang on a minute. Let's look at this body of work here.
They didn't just beat the Jags. They beat the Jags by 20 points. Earlier this season. They beat the Steelers, another playoff team, by 24. Like they're right there. They're a great team.
They are. Yes. I don't know that they're a great team, but he's a great quarterback. And look, they lost to the Falcons, and they lost to I think everybody's been looking for reasons for it to come back down to earth. He just went to Cincinnati and beat the hottest team in football against a defense that was playing as good as any in football lately, and he beat Joe Burrow. Right? And he beat Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow came back a couple of times. He just went to Cincinnati and beat Joe Burrow. Yikes. It's awesome. I love it. What a great story. And good for the fans of Houston who have had to deal with Bill O'Brien and Deshaun Watson for a while. They deserve it. This is fantastic. One of the best stories for a quarterback we've seen in a long time, and I'm here for all of it. I love it. But anyway, we'll talk about the rest of the games as we wrap up the first hour. Coming right back. On the way out, let's give something away here, Jad. Let's start with movie tickets. Sneak peek, Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I finished the book over the weekend, Tom. It was really, really, really good. I hope the movie's as good as the book. Thursday night, that's this week, Boulevard Theaters in Town West Square. You can get a pair of tickets right now by calling us on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll be right back. Nice job, Daniel, winning the Hunger Games tickets. Enjoy the movie on us here. Thanks to Boulevard Town West Theaters for hooking us up with those. We'll give away some HTO in the second hour, so stay tuned for your chance to win that on the IHOP hotline. Pick results are in. Tommy makes up a little ground again, makes up 3 games on Paul. Now just 4 games back of both Paul and I, who are tied for the lead. So you've had a good couple of weeks. I hope your wallet has been reflective of that. I've got a problem with my bets, Tommy. So people probably haven't noticed it here. Maybe you've noticed it on TV. I've had this little like rubber band bracelet. My daughter made it for me. She made that for me right before the postseason of baseball, and it has been my lucky bracelet. Rangers win a World Series. I was on just a scorching hot heater betting. I have lost that bracelet, and all my bets have gone in the toilet the last 2 weeks. And it's somewhere at home, and I cannot find it, and I don't know what to do because things aren't going well since I lost it.
You better find it. I mean, I would imagine that from now on,
the Rangers may never win the World. Shohei Ohtani's in free agency right now. I got to find this bracelet.
Well, until you find it, I mean, I think the right thing to do is fade Jacob accordingly. Like if he's going to pick a game or, talk about bets, do the exact opposite until he finds that bracelet. No, it's been a good couple of weeks for me. I'm don't call it a comeback. I'm gaining ground. I'm right there. I'm right in the mix. I mean, it was like 2 weeks ago that I was gosh, what, like 16 games behind you guys, 17 games. And here I am.
Sometimes
I'm
you
right
got to
there.
hit
I'm
rock
knocking on the
bottom,
door.
you know?
It's true.
Yeah, you got to hit rock bottom before you can climb back to the top.
Yep.
I will say though, I had like a same game parlay on the Chargers Lions game yesterday that kind of evened my week out. I think if you put anything on that game that had involved offenses doing well, you probably cashed.
Yeah.
That game was nuts. I think that's one of the other things yesterday as we look at the NFL. That was another game I think that kind of told us a lot both ways. I know the Chargers lost, but at least the Chargers, for their own sake, and I know this, if you're a Chargers fan, this means nothing to you, but as we're trying to like get a grasp on the NFL, they're still able to hang, right? And the Lions, you went on the road in a shootout. Are there a lot of people that thought they'd be able to win a shootout? Well, they did. And by the way, they just got David Montgomery back. The Lions are a real problem for the NFC. I think I'm ready to say that they've got a chance in that NFC to do something, because with Montgomery there, they do have a pretty dynamic and multifaceted offense. I don't know what to make yet of them giving up that many points, but you know, they were able to get that done.
Well, it was another great showing from defensive guru head coach Brandon Staley for the Chargers. I texted you after the game. The Chargers are wasting Justin Herbert and his talent. They are absolutely wasting him.
I think I'm obviously coming to you on Stroud. I think you're coming to me on Herbert too, and seeing what I'm talking about. Like, it's ridiculous. It's been ridiculous for 3 years what they've been doing with him at quarterback. If you watch their games, you're just like, how is this happening? By the way, the Lions went for it at least one time on like 4th and goal and didn't get it. They may be able to have scored 50 yesterday. You know, that offense is dynamic, and when they have David Montgomery there, they're crazy. Let's continue to discuss the NFL. We'll go back to college football if you weren't with us earlier in the show. We'll talk about some of the other games there, get back to K-State, KU, look ahead to some college basketball. A lot to get to on a Reaction Monday. And a pretty interesting Monday Night Football game tonight. We'll give away some HTO in the second hour. So stick with us. Lots to come here on Sports Daily. Hour number 2 coming right up.
NFL Loud Mornings with Bob and Tom on 97. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. This is Sports Daily on Wichita's #1 sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Sports Daily, a Reaction Monday. This is normally the spot. We have KU insider Shreyas Laddha on. He will join us tomorrow. So the IHOP hotline is open, 869-1240. IHOP, where guests can enjoy a home-style turkey stuffing dinner, roasted turkey and gravy over cornbread stuffing, served with a choice of 2 dinner entree sides. So you can get in and check that out. You can call us on that hotline. We'll have it open for you. We'll give away some HTO this hour. Congratulations on our Hunger Games tickets. We'll have some pairs to give away. We may even give away a couple pairs of those as we make our way closer to that movie. Jad will let us know, and we'll get that done. All right, let's continue to look around the NFL. We sort of got distracted with CJ Stroud talk there, Tommy. The Ravens. Everybody's still feeling great about the Ravens being this immovable object? No. I mean, that was an epic collapse yesterday to Cleveland. They fall at home. Cincinnati falls at home. We'll see what happens with Buffalo tonight, and we'll get to that in just a second. But look, the Jags, by the way, fall at home. If you're a Chiefs fan and you just saw 3 of the teams supposedly in the mix there lose at home, I think you're feeling pretty good. The Bills are the other one. They get the Broncos tonight, and the Broncos are playing better. I don't know if they're playing good enough to go to Buffalo and get a win. But after what we saw yesterday in the NFL, I'd be a little nervous if I was Buffalo right now.
Yeah, I still think Buffalo's going to get the win. I mean, they got to sit at home yesterday and watch what all the other teams
think they'll win by 7.
Hunt. I don't know if I'm going to make that bet, but I do think that they win the game. I mean, they've got an opportunity to move up in the AFC playoff rankings after watching what happened with the Ravens and the Jags and the Bengals yesterday. So I like the Bills in this game tonight. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in the Broncos to go into Buffalo and win the game. I don't think I'm betting that spread, though, but I do like the Bills tonight.
Broncos are finally running the ball. Javonte Williams has looked good. They really have been playing better, and it's because the defense has been playing better.
Right.
I mean, we saw that firsthand against Kansas City, but Tommy, that game, and then they gave up 17 and 9 points in the other 2 games. They've given up 17 points to the Chiefs collectively. Their defense, and I was talking to our old pal Bruce Hurdle Saturday about this, and I think that it's been only 1 offensive touchdown that has been scored against them over that stretch. So that defense, which is clearly their problem, is playing much, much better. And then Russell Wilson's not playing poorly, hasn't been all year, and they're running the ball a little bit. Like, Denver's an interesting team. This is a game I think to pay attention to tonight. And I don't know how I'm going to bet it either. I maybe the under. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the bet is on it. But Buffalo's needs to do something here, because what are you looking at? And I say this, and I'll say it, and I'll say it, and I'll say it. If Kansas City's playing the level of defense that they're playing, and they have Mahomes and Kelsey, I'm not picking against them in the postseason. No chance. Not any of these teams, because it's just been a weird year. And in a weird year, what can you count on? Typically, you can count on a good defense, and you can always count on Mahomes. And we said playing better with CJ Stroud earlier. CJ Stroud is playing better than Patrick Mahomes. But that doesn't mean that it's not Patrick Mahomes. And he's the best quarterback on the planet. And when push comes to shove in the postseason, there's nobody else you'd rather have the ball in their hands. So, yeah, they did win by not playing yesterday, because yesterday was just a reminder of what kind of year it is in the NFL. I thought, San Francisco probably, like, for the win that made you feel the best, if you're a team that might win a Super Bowl, it was San Francisco's. For them to be able to go to Jacksonville and just get back to it, that was the win yesterday, I thought, that really stood out above the rest. Because everything else, like, even, Cleveland, great comeback, cute story. Texans, yes, that was really impressive. Texans aren't going to win the Super Bowl. So as you look at the Vikings against the Saints, Josh Dobbs, what a story, right? But as far as, like, impactful things that we saw that could have staying power, it was the Niners over the Jags. Cowboys, Lions both made nice little statements yesterday. But, for the Cowboys, it's against the Giants. I don't care. That Niners win, I think, does tell us something.
Yeah, I think it does too. And that's why when we picked on Friday, I picked the Niners to cover, because, they've lost 3 in a row Brock Purdy was not playing particularly well. They were really banged up. Trent Williams out, Deebo Samuel out, but they were all back. I mean, Purdy had his contingent of guys back offensively, and they flexed a little bit. I had a hard time thinking that they were going to drop 4 in a row. So they were able to go into Jacksonville. And it's not that I don't believe in the Jags. I think that the Jags I think they're maybe a step away, like a step away from being real and legitimate. But
I never thought they were real and legitimate. I don't, they don't strike fear into me. Calvin Ridley has been a non-factor lately. What are they going to do? Do they really scare you in the postseason? Trevor Lawrence isn't playing that kind of football.
I think if they can get the run game going with Etienne, I mean, yeah, like they have a kind of a contingent of guys offensively that, I don't want to say they strike fear at me in the playoffs, but I mean, Kansas City, like they struggled with the Jags a little bit in week number 2 in the season, right? So again, I think that they're not quite there, but I do like them. And for the Niners to be able to go into Jacksonville and flex, I mean, it tells you, I think, more about the Niners than it does about the Jags, but that's impressive with San Francisco. That, I mean, there are a lot of people that were jumping off that 49ers bandwagon after the last couple of weeks. They've got a ton of talent, and they always have.
Well, I told you Friday, I'm not jumping off the bandwagon, and that's why I picked them too. Like I'm not. Like they're built in a way that I still love. Right? They can run the ball. They are a different passing offense with Deebo there. They showed that yesterday. He does a whole lot for that offense. And he does it whether he's catching a ton of passes or not.
Yeah.
They're just like he is a key cog for them. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that of the teams, like in the NFC, if I had to pick a team to go to the Super Bowl, it's still the Niners. Cowboys, I mean, they had the head-to-head game. I don't know how much that changes. Dak Prescott continues to play really well. By the way, he's going to get into that MVP candidate conversation too, if this continues. But like, it's the Niners. The Eagles didn't play yesterday either. They get to play that game against Kansas City. My goodness, what a great game, that Super Bowl rematch, because I think both of those teams have something to say. And I like, if I'm the Chiefs, I need to see them win that game, right? Like some of these games haven't really meant a whole lot to me. Like if they went to Germany and lost to the Dolphins, meh, don't care. They do need to beat Philadelphia. Like that one I do care about. If Philadelphia beats them, I'll care about that a little bit. I think that will be I think it'll be, I guess, more impactful than some of the other games they've either lost or could have lost. This one does mean something, I think, for Kansas City.
Well, and I'll be the first one on this show to mention, and everybody knows it, what Andy Reid does after a bye, right? Everybody knows what Andy Reid does after a bye over the course of his career. But I think that this bye week that they just completed is probably more important than, man, a lot of other bye weeks that I can think of in recent history for the Chiefs, because they had the opportunity to come back from Germany, reset a little bit, get healthy a little bit, and figure out what the heck is going on offensively for Kansas City in advance of this big-time showdown with the Philadelphia Eagles. And so you better believe that Andy Reid and Matt Nagy and Patrick Mahomes and everybody involved in the offensive scheme for Kansas City, they know what the Philadelphia defense typically shows. They game planned against them in the Super Bowl a year ago, and they've got an offense that has been sputtering from time to time. And so they've got to try to find a way to get back on the right track offensively. And the bye week came at a perfect time for Kansas City to be able to figure out exactly how they can go into this game on Monday, a week from tonight, and actually put together 4 quarters of a solid offensive output. And that's going to be my expectation next Monday night on Monday Night Football, is that they've had all this time to figure out exactly how they can get back on track offensively. Now I'm going to want to see it.
So I'm pulling this up as I'm saying it. When we talk about the Eagles, like you're not probably going to run the ball against them. The tight end against the Eagles have been decent against the tight end. They've given up just under 5 catches and 50 yards a game and about a touchdown every other. But when you go into wide receiver against the Eagles, it gets a little bit different. I mean, they're giving up 200 yards a game to wide receivers and about 17 catches, which I don't have that versus the rest of the league, but it's not good, right? And so I think that this is the opportunity for Kansas City to get the rest of the passing game right a little bit?
Will they?
Like you've had,
I think
you've
that's,
had,
I mean,
I
that's
don't,
the
well,
question, right?
that's
Like,
obviously that is the question.
Can they do that
That's
with
why
the
this
receivers
game,
they have?
that's why this game matters, because this is the kind of team that can be gotten by that position and by a good passing game. The Chiefs have had extra time to prepare for it. You're not likely at all to run the ball against Philadelphia. So what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to have to beat them with your wide receivers. They've been banged up at that position. They've had to make some trades. They had a bye week too, and they may get a little better against the pass because they've had a bye week to, get Rasul Douglas introduced and all those things, and they went and got Byard, and they've had some additions to the team. But I think that's why I love this game for Kansas City and care far more about it. Sorry, Douglas was to the Bills. They got Byard. But like it's the opportunity for the Chiefs passing game to get right. They've had the bye and they have the team to do it against, which is a good team. This is the kind of team you'll see in the playoffs. This one matters to me far more than any of the other games Kansas City's played recently. If they come flat here, it's a problem. It's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, I remember mentioning after the Chiefs lost to the Broncos a couple of weeks ago that if they didn't figure it out, then you could have seen a 6-4 Chiefs team before Thanksgiving. Now, of course, they beat the Dolphins in Germany, and that was great. But I mean, they've got all of this time to get ready for the Eagles in the Super Bowl rematch in prime time. And you know what? I think that part of it is going to come down to how well the Kansas City defense is going to be able to stop Jalen Hurts. Hurts has not played outstanding this season. I mean, he and Mahomes, I think when we talked about CJ Stroud in the MVP conversation last hour, it's been throughout the entire season that Mahomes and Hurts and Tua have been kind of at the top of the MVP odds. I don't think Jalen Hurts is really there. I mean, he has not performed
His
this
odds
season.
are, but I'm
the
with
odds
you.
are, but
I
he
agree.
hasn't performed this season like he did a year ago. And so you've got a couple
He's
of quarterbacks.
still been good.
He's been okay.
But
he's
fine. Been a step back from last year. Yeah.
I want to see the Kansas City defense limit him on the ground. The secondary, Trent McDuffie had a phenomenal game in Germany against the Dolphins. They're going to have a tall task with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, everybody that they've got there catching the football from Jalen Hurts. You've got to try to contain him in the best way possible. And I don't know exactly what that means as far as keeping him in the pocket versus letting him scramble, but you've got a game plan against that. And you know what? It's crazy, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's been the way it's been all season long. I've almost got more faith in Steve Spagnuolo game planning against Jalen Hurts than I do the Kansas City offense game planning a way to be effective for 4 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, of course you do right now. The defense is playing great, and that's totally fair. I just don't know, like, if there's going to be a change or something that happens for the offense to get better, this is the spot it's probably going to come. Now, again, I'm going to say it, like, even if it doesn't, and it is what it is, I'm not picking against Mahomes, Kelsey, and that defense in the playoffs, right? I'm not. Whether their offense comes out in this game and plays well or not.
But you just said that it would be a problem if they came out flat. I mean, I think that
sure.
It'll
be a problem because if it doesn't happen now, it's probably not going to. That doesn't make me say I still don't think the Chiefs are the favorite in the AFC. I just mean it's going to be a lot harder, right?
So
because this is the spot.
If you had to game script, a way that this game on Monday Night Football next week will play out, if you had an ideal opportunity to kind of plan it out, what would it look like to you?
It's a good question. I think that, one, you limit the amount of plays that Philadelphia gets offensively. You limit the amount of shots they're able to take to A.J. Brown. You slow the game down big time. And then you have to be able to basically pick up first downs with your wide receivers. Like, slow it down. Don't get into a game where A.J. Brown's able to kill you, because he's been as good as there is in football and as close to unstoppable as there is. But they did a good job against Tyreek Hill. Totally different, task and totally different ask of your defense, different types of receivers. But I think that's, what you don't want is some track meet, because Kansas City's not built to play in a track meet. You just need efficiency from wide receiver, right? You need
Yeah.
them to be able to make the necessary plays when they're asked to make them to keep the ball on Kansas City's side of the field.
I was just about to say, I don't think that the Chiefs can win a track meet against the Eagles with the way that
I don't think they can win a
offensively they're
track meet
built.
against anybody.
Well, that's true, but especially against the Eagles, and
Right.
you know that that's what the Eagles are going to want to do. They want to speed the game up. They
Yeah.
want to score a lot of points. They want to have deep shots to Brown and Smith and others. That's not the way that this Chiefs offense is built. I don't think they can win a track meet. And you know what? This has been a Chiefs team that forever. I mean, as long as Patrick Mahomes has been there, they can win track meets. They were built to win track meets. They're not built to win a track meet in this game next Monday.
I just don't think they're built to win a track meet. Now, maybe that changes over the course of the season, but what they have on offense right now is not track meet. It's run after the catch.
I don't know if they've got the running game to win a non-track meet either. Like that's what's difficult about this team.
I do,
because
it's not going to come in this game.
Right,
it's not going to come in this game.
Because you say slow it down a little bit, and I agree with you, but they're not going to give Isaiah Pacheco the ball 25 times. That's going to be the ultimate way.
No. It'll be a slowed down passing game.
Right.
Yeah, no, it'll be a slowed down passing game. They'll have to, you just have to make the plays that move the sticks at wide receiver. I mean, they need to try to run the ball, but I don't think it's going to be effective. So yeah, it's probably like a 12 carry game. Here's another prediction I'll make, and I'll look at this when the props come out. I suspect that this will be Jerick McKinnon's biggest game. I think we're to the point of the season where they will start to use him more. I do think that they kind of try to keep him in their back pocket a little bit. And that's a smart thing to do because he gets hurt, with relative ease. I think this may be the chance that they introduce that wrinkle, which is, using backs more as pass catchers. I just have a feeling this could be a McKinnon game. And a part of it is, again, I don't know that they need to be trying to have the downfield success throwing the ball unless something's changed in the bye week to show us that they've figured it out. I don't think that's going to happen. You have to be able to make the plays when they present themselves to move the sticks at wide receiver, because we know Kelsey can. Philadelphia's going to obviously try and take him away. So can the receivers just make those plays when they're called on? That's what we'll have to see. I love that game. Cannot wait for that game. It's way out there. The only other one I think that we haven't really hit on from yesterday, Tommy, is that Josh Dobbs thing, man. Like, what a story. What a dadgum story. And what a fascinating situation for Minnesota to be in, between Kirk Cousins and his $30 million of dead money next year, and what happens with him, and what a mobile quarterback has brought to the offense a little bit, the way that their defense is playing. I don't know, like, what's the appropriate emotion for a Vikings fan right now? I don't even know what it is.
I mean, the fact that it looks like in short order they'll be getting Justin Jefferson back. I don't know if that means this coming week or what.
I think it does.
Man, I mean, I would feel a renewed sense of optimism if I'm a Vikings fan right now.
There was optimism there already with Kirk Cousins, but they were just so jaded to it, right? Because the defense was playing well. Kirk Cousins if he wouldn't have got hurt, he would have been in that MVP conversation for sure. But now with Dobbs, like, it's different, right? It's different than when Cousins was there, but it's effective enough.
I'm ready right now to put down some money on Kevin O'Connell as coach of the year. And I'm looking at it right now. He's like 7.5 to 1. I mean, that's not great odds, but he's not the favorite. Dan Campbell is. Then D'Amico Ryans after that, and then Mike McDaniel after that, which I don't see Mike McDaniel. He's at 6 to 1 odds right now. I don't really see that. And then Kevin O'Connell comes in at 7.5 to 1. The fact from the way that the Vikings started, and I've been saying it all season long, and I know you have too, just wait. Like, the Vikings are not dead in that division. And, and I know the Lions are tough for sure, but man, I certainly wouldn't have believed that the Vikings would have been 6-4 after the way that they started, right? Like, I thought that they would still be in it, but I wasn't sure they'd be 6-4 right now.
Derek Carr got hurt in the game, which is important to point out. But the thing is, nobody this year was really throwing on the Saints, and the Vikings did it. And they don't have Justin Jefferson in there. And I'm just really interested. I love that this is working, because my alarm bells went off when Cousins got hurt. I was like, go trade for Josh Dobbs. Kyler Murray's coming back. Arizona's got to figure out what to do with him. Go get Dobbs right now because he is a gun slinger. He slings it, man. And he did that in Arizona. Now he gets to sling it when he has as good a trio of pass catchers as there is in football. I love the dynamic of that. His over rushing was as good. It was I don't usually bet props by themselves. That one I did because when you looked at what he did the week before and the fact that they needed to run the ball to beat the Saints and they couldn't, his rushing jumped out. It's a wrinkle that they haven't had there in the Kirk Cousins era. And I wonder what it's going to do. It's going to be interesting to see that team as they come down. If they can keep playing good defense, yeah, they got a shot. They absolutely have a shot. When do they play the Lions again? Sign me up for that game right now.
I can't wait for that. It's going to be incredible.
869-1240. On the way out, let's give away some HTO. The big Thanksgiving promo begins today. So here's how that works at HTO. You can get a discount on 4 gallons. It's 4 gallons for $19.99. It is the craziest week of the year, 2 weeks of the year at HTO. So if you want some iced tea for your holiday gatherings, get those pre-orders in over the next week because that's your opportunity to save a little money and do it. You can just go in store, make those orders. You pick them up right before the holiday. It's great. You can do it online. We're going to give away a couple of free iced teas in the spirit of it. Go see what flavors you might want. We'll do that. Those iced teas will be good in Wichita's East or West location or in Derby. Check it out. 2 free iced tea cards and make a Thanksgiving order while you're in the store there. First caller right now to the IOP hotline, 869-1240. We'll come back. More Sports Daily. We'll talk a little college hoops right after this. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. Congratulations to Gary for winning the HTO. Thanks for listening. Thanks for calling it on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. By the way, Monday Night Football, we mentioned it. Primetime NFL games from Westwood One available live for free tonight on the Odyssey app. Tune in over on KNSS for Monday Night Football. The Bills hosting the Broncos. Simply download the Odyssey app and search for KNSS at kickoff, and you can catch that. A little college basketball. Look, Friday, K-State and KU played squash games, and K-State, it got a little closer than it really was there right at the end. Not a ton to take away from those, I don't think, Tommy. Wichita State playing Friends, not a ton to take away from that. But we do get one tonight that I think we can take away from. South Dakota State playing K-State. That's going to be a good spot for K-State to sort of get in there and give us some indication of what the early season's going to look like. I think it was unfair to expect them to beat USC. They're 10.5-point favorites. South Dakota State lost their opener to Akron. I don't know what that means because I don't know anything about Akron. But typically, this is a pretty good program. And, it's where you look at it and you're like, K-State 10.5. Boy, they ought to be able to cover that number. And that's kind of the way it is. Like, they ought to be able to cover that number. But, I expect a decent test here and a pretty good look at what K-State's going to bring early in the season.
It got a little comfy for Kansas State against Bellarmine on Friday night.
It did.
I don't know much about Bellarmine. Honestly, I don't really know anything at all about Bellarmine. But it was a game that I felt like, because I watched a little bit of it in the second half, and I felt like the Wildcats had the opportunities to pull away and just make it a blowout. That never really happened, and Bellarmine kind of stayed in it towards the very end, an 8-point victory for the Wildcats. They didn't cover. The number, I think, was 10, wasn't it, going into the game? So
they didn't cover the game against Bellarmine.
Yeah, no. they didn't cover. And so I think that's going to be the most important thing moving forward for the Wildcats is when you get out to a big lead, and I would imagine that might happen tonight against South Dakota State. How do you keep your foot on the gas and continue it on to the very end and not let it get as comfy as it did with Bellarmine on Friday?
It is hard. Look, so USC is inside Ken Palm's top 15 right now. That's not a fair assessment. K-State's not there yet, right? K-State's in the 40s. Bellarmine is way down. South Dakota State's like 138. This is a good spot. This is a pretty good spot to just get a grasp or a glimpse of what the early season for K-State might be. If they win this game and if they cover that number, like, okay, it looks pretty good. The thing about K-State, though, is I don't, maybe it was around the office. We were kind of chatting about this. Somebody was asking me like, oh, that game against Bellarmine got close. And I'm like, yeah, K-State's not going to be what they're ultimately going to be, probably at the earliest at conference play. And it may be even later than that. Number one, we got to see what happens with Naquan Tomlin. But number two, it's going to take some time, I think, for this team to find its identity. We know Tyler Perry's going to lead the way offensively. It's just the way it's going to be. What else happens, though, I don't think we know, right? Cam Carter took a bunch of shots against Bellarmine early, I think, right? And it was high school football night, so I wasn't able to be as locked into that game as I wanted to be. But, it got tighter at the end than I think it really was. I don't think it was actually as close as the score. Carter took another 14 shots. Kaluma took another 14 shots. Early in the season, those appear to be the two guys. Day Ames all of a sudden took 9 shots. That's a name we didn't see in the first game. So I think there's going to be some of that where there's some sorting out still to do for Jerome Tang. I don't think that Cam Carter is going to ultimately end up as the second scoring option for this team. I don't think. But that's the way it's sort of been through the first 2 games. So, like, when we look at it and what it might look like in January, I think for them, it's going to take a while to get to that point. Certainly more time than it will take Wichita State or KU.
Look, if you remove Tyler Perry from this roster, they're in real trouble. And again, like, that's not the case, right? Tyler Perry is going to be great for them. But in the game on Friday, Perry scored 16 of his 18 points in the second half. And if you don't have Tyler Perry in the second half, man, like, it's an issue because Bellarmine outscored the Wildcats in the second half, outscored them by 7 to get back into the game. Wildcats had a 15-point lead going into the break, and the Bellarmine comes out, and that's with Tyler Perry scoring 16 of his 18 points in the second half. So you've got to have him. You've got to have him, be able to be effective offensively. I think that he was. I think that will continue. I'm kind of with you. I'm not sure that Cam Carter is the guy that they want to be leaning on to get the buckets right now, but I don't know if they have really any other choice.
Well, and it's not a knock on Cam Carter.
Right.
Cam Carter, if he takes another step, could absolutely be that guy. But yeah, it feels like it was going to be perhaps Naquan Tomlin. Kaluma's there and should do that. The other thing is too, Perry's got to start scoring in the first half. Like Perry's got to start games better than he has. And
but
that's going to happen.
And they
too.
had a 15-point lead at halftime, right?
Right. It against Bellarmine. So who cares, right? Like it's what are we seeing the offense look like? I've said this before the season. I don't know what K-State will be this year. I really don't. The other thing to consider with them is they had one of their better recruiting classes ever. Those guys will also develop quite a bit early and sort themselves through too, right? There is as much opportunity to do that at K-State as there are at any of the big time programs for some of these young guys to step up. That might take a little time too. And that's why I say, like, we're not going to know K-State's real potential. I mean, probably, Tommy, not until they get into the conference. It's going to take some time for this roster to sort itself out. And that was always going to be the case. Wins and losses, it's just like, can they kind of limp through with Perry right now? And then what else happens between now and then? I really don't think we're going to have a solid grasp of what this team looks like ultimately until we've played 6 to 10 more games. I think it's going to take some time. I just do.
There's a guy on South Dakota State by the name of Zeke Mayo. He had 28 points when they played Dakota Wesleyan over the weekend, but he's a scorer. And so he's going to be somebody that the Wildcats are going to want to try to limit tonight in that game. Also, I love the name Zeke Mayo. I can't get over that that's the dude's name. But he scored quite a bit.
I'm more of a Zeke Mustard guy.
I like that. I can see that.
Anybody? Jad, what do you think about that?
Is there a can we get like a rim shot sound effect?
Yeah, like I took away dad jokes, and I don't know why. It just sort of got away from me. But that was, sorry. But anyway, more on Zeke Mayo.
He scored 28 points. That was all I was going to say.
I don't know anything about him, but yeah. Anybody that scores 28 in a game is good. That's hard to do.
Anybody by the name of Zeke Mayo, I think, is going to be able to get it done too.
Yeah. Again, if you missed it, I'm more of a Zeke Mustard guy. But anyway, Wichita State not playing tonight. Friends. I don't know, Tommy. Like I'm glad they played the game. Nostalgically, I think it was honestly kind of a nice time to mix in a game like that. You know what I mean? Like you get you're getting off to a good start. It's odd to do that, but if there's going to be an opportunity to see some shots go in, which is kind of what that is, that's not maybe a bad thing. Can they use that at all? Like if you've been struggling to shoot threes and all that stuff, and you play a game where you can just sort of let it rip and you'll be okay if they're not falling. In that scenario, they took more than they normally do, and they shot close to 50%. I think if anything comes out of that game, it's probably that. Don't you?
Yeah, I mean, they played really tight to start the game, I thought. Friends got out to a lead, I think, midway through the first half. I mean, they had the lead for a while, and then it just kind of seemed like the lid came off the hoop. They started to play a lot looser and then just kind of let it fly, right? And that was the important thing, I think, for the confidence level to be built for this team. And by the time you got to halftime, Shockers had a comfortable 22-point lead and never really looked back from that point on. So that's important for them. It's important for them to be able to see the ball go in a little bit, because they haven't shot it great through the first couple of games of the year. So you play an opponent like Friends, you get to loosen up a little bit after not a great start to the game. I think that was what they needed. That was the recipe for them. And again, I said it before. I said it before the weekend. I absolutely love Isaac Abide and Dalen Original coming off the bench. I love the energy that those two guys bring.
Oh, yeah. It's been the best thing we've seen so far this year.
That's my favorite thing that Paul Mills has done so far.
Absolutely.
Is giving those two guys minutes off the bench because of the spark that he gives them.
Well, it stretches it out, and it was great to see a combined 2 turnovers from Bell and Beverly, because that's the part that probably won't change, and just those guys, continuing to play at whatever level, I think is what we're going to have at that position, or at least what you can count on with the uncertainty of some of the other guys being able to play this year. So Ridgnall and Abide give you depth, though, at the other spots, right? And that's going to be very handy, and they give you that energy that now you can maybe have a slump buster, right? A run buster on the other side. It really is like, I think, Tommy, the difference between the floor and the ceiling for the Shockers is how they shoot the 3. If they shoot the 3 well, their ceiling is pretty dang high.
Yeah.
If they don't, it's not nearly as high. I think that their floor is still going to be fine, because you can just, the energy at which they're playing with, and what we've talked about, right, with rebounding and their size and all that stuff. I mean, of course, they're going to out-rebound Friends. So 54-28, though, it's doubling them up. That's awesome. That I think is going to allow their floor to be pretty high. Their ceiling can get much higher if they shoot the ball well. And we just have not seen a Shocker team shoot the ball well in a long time. 10 of 23, you're not writing headlines about that, but it's better than the alternative, certainly. And I don't, again, I did not watch the game yesterday. I tried to, get pieces of it and see clips of it and all that stuff. So I don't know how well defended the 3s were there, but shooting 3s is critical, I think. I don't think it's everything, but I think it's icing on the cake, because this feels more to me like a high energy, get after you kind of team, especially with those 2 guys coming off the bench. I don't think they have to have the 3, but I do think it raises the bar for them significantly if they can get it consistently.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of people yesterday, and we were talking about Isaac Abide and Dalen Ridgnall and what they bring off the bench. And, they were like, well, why doesn't Paul Mills just start them? If they're providing all this, I think that's the wrong move to make. And it's all strategy, right? Like what they've been able to bring in. And you mentioned it, like a slump buster or a run buster. Like that's the role of those 2 guys. Ridgnall came off the bench and had 6 rebounds. And, his rebounding ability is off the charts. That was a great pickup by Paul Mills to bring him in. And it's crazy to me that Missouri State couldn't find a way to utilize him, because I think he's going to be a star. I love watching that guy play. And I love the fact, again, that they're coming off the bench and providing that energy level and that spark at times when the starting 5 probably needs a little bit of a spark and energy level boost. So I love that a lot. I absolutely don't think that they should be starting.
Remember, Greg Marshall used to get so mad at the question about starters, because it doesn't matter. Guess who played the most minutes in that game yesterday? Isaac Abide, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you start the game. It matters how much you play. And right now, this is a formula that's working for them to sort of hold those guys and then turn them loose. They played more minutes. And Ridgnall played as many minutes as any of the other starters, pretty much. Abide led the team in minutes. Don't worry about the fact that he's not starting yet. He might be before this is all said and done. He very well could be, because maybe there's a way that you split up, Poto and Ballard in a different way. But I kind of like having those 2 guys out there initially, because there may be easy buckets to get early. And then, bring those guys in for energy, and then let the minutes sort themselves out. Starters, we look too much into that. And sometimes it matters. Sometimes I think Isaac Brown, that got the better of him for a long time. But think about some of those great teams. Greg Marshall used to get so annoyed at that question. Who cares, right? Look at the minutes at the end of the game. And that's probably, at least early in the season, what we're going to see. As long as those guys are playing, it doesn't matter if they're starting. 869-1240. Your thoughts were wide open in our last full segment here coming back. We'll do it next. It's Albracht and Castor at Sports Daily on a Monday.
$97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Scott Graham here from Westwood One. Monday Night Football is coming up from Buffalo with the Bills and the Broncos. Sean Payton's Denver team is coming off their bye week and looking for a third straight win. Sean McDermott's Bills need a win to stay above 500. Kevin Harlan and Ross Tucker will call the action on air and on the free live stream sponsored by AutoZone on Monday Night Football.
Get ready for the game with more details and preview at westwoodonesports.com.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
O'Reilly. Protect your engine better with Syntec Full Synthetic High Mileage Motor Oil, only at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec High Mileage is formulated for today's engines with over 75,000 miles. Now get 5 quarts of Syntec High Mileage and a MicroGuard Select oil filter for just $34.99. Limit supply. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts. Introducing the all-new Apex family, infused with sustainable materials and crafted for durability to keep you moving and safe. Available now at Red Wing Shoes. Great for indoor and outdoor jobs in construction and manufacturing, Apex boots are purpose-built for on-the-job performance. Apex exists to help workers evolve to meet the demands of their jobs. Stop in and see us today. Red Wing Shoes, 6600 West Kellogg, and visit us on social media.
Patterson Legal is the way to go. Call 550-0000.
Come and enjoy a free birthday boil at Hook and Reel. Valid only with minimum of a 2 entree purchase, proof of ID, and also valid 3 days before and 3 days after birthday. Located in Town East Parking Lot, East Kellogg.
Looking for heating pellets? Look no further than Pride Ag Ace Hardware. Pride Ag carries the very best Pennington Premium Oak Pellets to keep you warm this winter. Stop by 5204 North Mays Road. Pride Ag Ace Hardware, where we take pride in serving you.
Toppers Plus Truck Accessories has moved to a new location at 333 Northwest Street. Whether you're working or playing, Toppers Plus will get your truck ready with Rhino linings. Nothing beats a Rhino, the leader in sprayed-on truck bed liners that outperforms plastic drop-in rubber mats and paint-like coatings. They won't crack, peel, or warp, and include a lifetime warranty. Toppers Plus, your Rhino dealer. Visit our new location at 333 Northwest Street or toppersplusks.com.
Make your truck work for you!
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger. Because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Honey, can you swing by the post office and grab some stamps?
Done.
And drop off these packages?
Sure thing, honey.
Ooh, and get the tracking info.
Got it.
But you haven't moved.
I know. How great is that?
This holiday season, the Postal Service is closer than ever with convenient ship-from-home services like label printing, free package pickup, and
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you. Jad Chambers producing. Congratulations to our winner giveaways, our giveaway winners. We will do some more of that tomorrow, so plenty of chances to win. What do you make of Aaron Rodgers here, Tommy? It's been kind of back and forth. The Jets not able to get it done last night. Rodgers has hinted that he might be able to be back in December. Some reporting that's only if the Jets are in the mix. Some reporting that that's too soon. Injury experts are sort of all over the place on that possibility. It's a weird kind of pressure on the Jets, right? Because it's like, can we be in the playoff mix in mid-December to get him back or not? Like their deadline is almost sooner than everybody else's. And if he comes back, is it like an immediate, like, okay, now we're going to get into the playoffs? It will be tight. It will be close. Yeah, they're kind of a game out, right? I got... Totally, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything to count on because it sort of depends on everything else that happens around him. I don't know if they're going to be able to get there. But this was always like the weird part of their equation anyways. Their schedule was tough, right? Like, so, I mean, they could be 5-4, 4-5, even if he was there. I don't know, he's at the age too, where it's not like you're really thinking about like, well, what could this do to me over the rest of my career? He probably is, next year, there's a decent chance that's it anyway. And so there's not as much risk for him to come back early, maybe as some other guys, but it will be fascinating to see that. I mean, imagine being Zach Wilson too, and trying to play through that. Like the better you play, the better the chance you lose your job, right? It's a weird dynamic for that team. And I like seeing him on the sidelines. I like seeing him, engaged with his teammates and all of that stuff. I think that's been good to see. And I do think he's trying probably as much as he can to help Zach Wilson, because that's how he gets back too, right? His own success is sort of dependent on Zach Wilson's success. Again, like it's this really strange dynamic there. Right. Well, it may be for his own, maybe the backup spot for the Jets. Like he could be auditioning for that. Sure. I caught the second half. If Zach Wilson could figure out how to not throw missiles every time, it'd go a long way. Like he fires it in there no matter what the situation is. And it's like Yeah. This year's been tragic. Is he better than Aiden O'Connell? Because he got beat by Aiden O'Connell last night. I mean, I think he probably is. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you're not excited about the future if you're thinking about Wilson as the future of your franchise. But the backup, he could be competing for the backup job on his own team. Like if you're the Jets, having Zach Wilson as a backup's not that bad, right? But you don't want him as a starter. I don't know what to make of them. They're confusing me. And I just want Breece Hall to have 1,000 carries in a game one time to see what happens. Like no matter what the game script says, just give it to him like 1,000 times and see what happens, because he's going to break off some plays. He is so explosive, and it just is like slogging through there on that team. Monday Night Football. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, we talked you into that. We baited you a little bit because they were down $1 billion to nothing. Yeah, we baited you into that one. Tommy DeVito against that defense was a problem. And by the way, the Giants defense stinks, and they're going to be in the mix for that top pick. They really are, I think. Like they're cashing it in, man. They got nothing to play for, and not a lot on the roster either. But we'll see. I think Dable will be safe. I don't know. We'll come back. We'll tell you what's on the networks today, including Monday Night Football. That's all as we wrap up Sports Daily.
97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, everybody. Jim Rome follows us here. You've got Bob and Jeff from 2 to 4. Zach Gelb takes you for a couple hours here on KFH. Then we get K-State hoops tonight against South Dakota State. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock with the voice of the Wildcats, Wyatt Thompson. That's here, which means Monday Night Football moves over to KNSS 6:30. Broncos, Bills, in a game I think that is pretty interesting, more for Buffalo, but Denver's going to give them something if they continue to play. Tommy, tomorrow we're going to have a big college basketball game to talk about. KU, Kentucky. Here we go. It's going to be good. For Jad and Tommy, I'm Jacob. We'll see you then.